Welcome to session 9 of module 4. In session 8, we understood what is software re-engineering under software maintenance. Okay. So we understood what happens during software maintenance. The product is given to the client will be using the product, and over a period of time the product evolves, the product improves because of the changing requirements, because of the changing situations, policies, regulations, and also maybe because of the flaws or bugs that may arise when the client is using the software. These flaws or bugs may not be discovered during testing, and that may pop up during usage. Okay. So as we keep on changing the software, okay, so we understood the structure of the software degrades. Reason being, the software was built with a specific set of requirements. The design of the software was based on initial set of requirements. So as the requirements are changing, okay, so your design should incorporate the new requirements, and it may not be so adjustable or compatible with the existing design. So that is a major issue that will result in the structure of the software being degraded. So you keep on making the changes, you keep on making the improvements, you keep on adding new functionalities, so the existing structure will degrade. Okay. Now we need to manage this situation during maintenance. Okay. So we also understood the concept of software re-engineering, where we understood instead of completely replacing the existing software, try to improvise on the design of the existing software so that we can go with the maintenance, or we can continue with the maintenance. Okay. The reason being, software evolution or maintenance may reach a point where further changes may not be possible. Okay. The design or the modification has reached to a point where further modification may completely collapse the software. Okay. So in that case, we will try to redesign, okay, modify the design for maintenance. Okay, we are not building a new software with a new design. Okay, so we will modify the design in such a way that the software can be maintainable. Okay, so this is what is called as re-engineering. So we had concluded with a brief introduction of software re-engineering in session 8. So now in today's session, that is in session 9, we will take up software engineering with further detailing. Okay. So we will try to understand the process that is involved in software re-engineering. Okay. So immediately the first thing that you should understand here is, when we are claiming it's a process, so it should be very clear that there is a starting point, there are set of steps or sequences, and there is an end point. Okay. So that is what is called as a process. Now what is the process that will be followed during re-engineering? Okay, so we will try to understand this. Now before going to the process, we will just try to understand what are the benefits of re-engineering. There are a few benefits. Okay, so once we explore the benefits of re-engineering, then we will go into the process. Okay. What are the benefits? The first benefit is reduced risk. Okay. See, instead of re-engineering, if you go with replacement, what will be the consequence? So as we understood, replacement means you will completely scrap the existing software. Okay. You will phase out the existing software and go with the new software. Okay. Now what is the risk factor that is involved? Okay. Risk factor is, during this transition period of phasing out the existing software and getting the new software, so it involves some time, some duration. So during this period, your business may get into risk because you do not have the software. You have phased out the old software and you do not have the new software. So this window period can really be very costly in terms of business. Okay. Also extra cost. So you need to pay for the new software, because it's a completely new process starting from the scratch, where you will collect the requirements, come out with a completely new design, coding, testing. Okay, so you need to pay, you need to take the burden of the complete process in terms of cost. So the point here is, if you are going for a completely new software, okay, by scrapping the existing software, if you are planning for a complete replacement, so you need to take the risk of waiting, and it will obviously have a consequence on your business. You should be ready to pay the extra cost for the new software. Okay. So if you do not opt for a completely new software, instead you go for a re-engineered software, what will be the benefit? The benefit is, re-engineering is just refining the design of existing software, and it definitely will not take much of the time and cost. Okay, so that is a benefit. So the bottom line here is, re-engineering is more beneficial compared to retiring the existing software and replacing it with a completely new software. So even we had a discussion of this in the previous session, that is session 8. So with this information, with this knowledge, we will enter into software re-engineering process activities. Okay. So now the objective here is, we have an existing code, we have an existing project. Our aim or objective here is, we need to ensure that this existing project will take a transition in such a way that it can be maintainable. Okay, we can add few new functionalities, we can correct the errors or flaws, we can add small new requirements. Okay, small changes to the software should be accommodated by the software, okay, without causing any issues. Okay, so this is the primary objective, fundamental objective of re-engineering. Okay, so once again I am repeating, we are not building a new product or a new software. We take the existing software, we take the existing code, and we try to refine it to a state, to a point where it is possible to maintain. Okay. Now, as already indicated, what is the process that is followed as part of this? What is the process? So we will try to understand. Okay. So the very first step, and we will try to understand it through graphical illustration. So instead of making theoretical statements or theoretical points, we will try to experience the flow graphically through different stages. Now, what is the very first stage? So first stage is, take the original code. Okay. So the original program. So what I mean here by original program is, take the existing code. Okay. Now, existing application was there, existing software was there, we have taken it. What is the next step? So there is a very high probability that the existing code is in a very, a programming language which was very old. Okay. The reason is, maintenance or re-engineering is a stage, so which is being experienced after requirement engineering, design, implementation, testing, the product being given to the customer. So definitely it's a very long duration, and also the customer has used this product or software for a period of time. Okay. So obviously there is a very high probability this application was written using one of the traditional programming languages, old programming languages. Okay. Now, would it not be better to convert it into a state-of-the-art programming language, a new programming language, new technology? Okay. So yes, definitely, and that is what we will do as part of re-engineering. Okay. So we will take the original program and do a source code translation. Okay. So the complete source code will be translated into a new programming language. Now it's a process, so we will indicate it through a rounded rectangle. So as we have already experienced in many of the graphical illustrations, so when you are indicating some activity and if that activity is a process, so we use a rounded rectangle. Okay. So now we have done with the translation. We took the original program, for example, the program was in C language, a traditional programming language. Okay, we have done the transition or translation to a modern day programming language, maybe like Python. Okay, just an example. Now, once done with this translation, so what is the next step? So next step is nothing but reverse engineering. So we will go with reverse engineering. What is reverse engineering? What exactly happens during reverse engineering? Okay. So as the name itself is indicating, reverse engineering means we get into the source code of the program. Okay. We analyze the program. We try to extract the information. Okay. We try to extract the information about what functions are there in the program. Okay. What the source code is doing, and we create a documentation of the program. Once again, what is the reason for this? Why we need to create documentation at this point? Reason being, the original program or the very old application that was being used by the software, by the client. Okay, so there is a very high probability of losing the documentation or documentation being inconsistent. What do you mean? What we mean by this? Okay, so as we understood, during maintenance, continuous changes are happening to the software, to the existing software. Okay, so there is a very high probability of proper documentation not being available because of the continuous changes. Okay, maybe you may not have the information about what is the existing version, or even if that information is there, it may not be proper. So now what to do? So the solution is create a documentation for the existing code. Okay, that to be more specific, as you can see, we are not creating the documentation taking into reference the original program. Instead, the program that was translated, so that program is being taken into consideration and documentation is being built for this translated program. Okay, so we are taking the program, extracting the information, and basically we are trying to understand what are the different functionalities, and we are building documentation for it. Okay, so that was reverse engineering. Also, we have one more stage with source code translation called as program structure improvement. Okay. So program structure improvement. So what exactly we are aiming at in structure improvement, program structure improvement? What is our objective here? Okay. So in program structure improvement, our primary emphasis is on improving the control structure of the program. So as we are aware, controls flow decides which module, which functionality should interact with which other functionality. Okay, how the decision flow should go in this system or application. So all these things will be decided by the control flow or control structure. So we analyze it and we try to optimize it. Okay. Also, we ensure it is easily understandable. Okay. The primary reason being, see, the original program may have been designed and coded by taking into consideration the performance, okay, performance of the application. Okay. If that is the case, the understandability of the code, maybe that if that factor is not considered, it will be difficult for others to understand. Now you may ask a question, what is the reason for others to understand the code? If the code is performing as per the expectation, okay, it is sufficient. What is the reason for others to understand the code? Okay, so the answer for this question is, we had already explored in the previous sessions Okay, so the development team and maintenance team will be different. Okay, so practically development team and maintenance team, it is different. Okay, so it is basically required for the maintenance team to understand the existing code. If they do not understand the existing code, they will not be able to make any changes or improvements to the existing code. Okay, but if you consider old programs, old applications, okay, more emphasis was given to the performance rather than writing the code in a form which could be understandable by everyone. Okay, so in program structure improvement, we are trying to optimize the control flow of the application. Not only that, we even try to rewrite the program or improve the program in such a way that it is easy to read and understand. Anyone can go through the program and understand it easily. So this carries an obvious benefit. The benefit is the maintenance team can easily understand the program and do the required changes at a later point of time. Okay. So this is program structure improvement. Okay. So we even try to automate much of the program, and we try to reduce the human intervention. Okay. So now this was the next step, the next stage in the software reengineering process. So to have a recap here, we took the original program, we took the existing source code of the application. Okay. So we did a translation of the source code to a modern day programming language. Once done with this, we created documentation for the code. That is done during reverse engineering. Also, we tried to improve the structure of the program in such a way that anyone can go through it, read it and understand it. Okay. Now, what is the outcome of this step, of this stage? Okay. So we have two possible outcomes. We have two outcomes here. Okay. Because we have done two activities. One is reverse engineering, the other one is program structure improvement. So what are the two possible outcomes here? So reverse engineering will give us the program documentation. Okay. So program documentation, this is the outcome of reverse engineering. And the outcome of program structure improvement is a restructured program, a program with an improvised structure which is easy to read and understand. Okay. So restructured program. So please understand, we are into software reengineering process where we are trying to understand what are the different stages involved in re-engineering the existing software. Re-engineering means trying to improve the source code, existing source code in terms of design and coding in such a way that it can be maintainable. Okay. Or to put it in simple terms, extending the lifetime of the software so that we need not replace this software with a completely new software. Let us continue using the existing software because it carries many benefits with it. As already discussed, we discussed the benefits of re-engineering instead of replacement. Okay. So this is the outcome, and to distinguish this outcome with a process, the notation we use here is okay, we highlight this rectangle. Okay, we cross it and we highlight it. Okay. Now what is the next step? So we have a documentation, we have a restructured program. Okay. So we will take both the components and we enter into the next stage, next process, next activity, that is program modularization. Okay. So program modularization. What is program modularization? So we'll try to understand. So as we are aware, a software application will have many components, many modules, okay, many parts. Now what if we grew related components? Okay, if we try to bring the related components close to one another, if we try to tightly couple the related components, so obviously the performance of the overall application will improve. Okay, so we try to couple related parts or related modules of the application in a tightly integrated way. That is what we are doing in program modularization. Okay, so different parts of the software which are closely related, okay, it will be brought together into one single unit. Okay, so that is modularization. Now, what is the benefit of this tight coupling? Okay, so the communication overhead between the different parts will be reduced because the parts are together. Okay, so overhead of communication, it will reduce. This will improvise the performance of the software. Okay, so this is one thing done during program modularization, that is group related parts of the program, group related parts of the software. Okay, the second thing is remove redundancy. Okay, so as already mentioned, this is a software which was maintained for a period of time. Okay, so during maintenance, definitely redundancy would have been introduced because of continuous changes. Okay, there is a very high probability of parts of the code being repeated, doing the same things. Okay, so in modularization, we identify those parts of the codes which are redundant, which are being repeated. Okay, and we try to eliminate it. Okay. Now, what is the benefit? We reduce the memory, we save the memory and computation cycles. Okay. So that was the second thing in program modularization. So first point was grouping related components. Okay. Second point was removing redundancy, and the third aspect in program modularization is design refactoring, or even we call it as code refactoring. See, refactoring means, once again, we are not changing the behavior of the code. Instead we are ensuring the code is easily understandable, okay, more structured. So that is refactoring. We will see the details of refactoring in the next topic. As you can see, that is the third topic. So second and third topic, you can see preventive maintenance and improvement by refactoring. What exactly is that? So we will explore at that point. Okay. So we can perform design refactoring in program modularization. Okay. So up to this point of time, what we have done is we have tried to modify the existing code in such a way that it is easy for us to maintain with further changes. Now there is one more aspect into it. What is that? See, application does not work independently. It requires data. Okay, and when you are changing the application, obviously the data that is being used by the application should be appropriately changed or modified. For example, if it's a patient monitoring system, okay, or a college management system, so definitely it will be using a database. For example, if it's a patient monitoring system, it would be using a database with records of patients, registration details of patients, medical records of patients, diagnosis details. So all those details would be stored in the database. Now we have modified the application. So obviously now we need to modify the database also. Okay. So that is the next step in the process. Just modifying the application and just deploying it is of no use if you do not modify the database that is being used by the application. Okay. So that will be the next step. So just doing the modularization will not be sufficient. Okay. Now before going to the database part, what is the outcome of modularization? So we'll try to understand. So the outcome of modularization is re-engineered programs. So the existing program the existing application now has the source code, now has the design which has been re-engineered, where redundancy was removed. Okay. Where related parts of the program has been tightly coupled and the design has been refactored. Okay. So this is the outcome of program modularization. So we have re-engineered program. Okay. So now, so as I was already discussing, so now we have completed with the application part. So now we need to touch upon the data part. So as already mentioned, application will be using the data. Okay. So just modifying the application is not sufficient. We need to even explore, you need to make changes to the data that is being used by the application. Okay. So that is done as data re-engineering. Okay. So that is the next activity. So data re-engineering. So next part of the process. Okay. Now what is the input to data re-engineering? Okay. Just taking the re-engineered program is not sufficient. You need to take the original data. Okay. Original database. So for data re-engineering, we take the original data. So original data that was previously used by the existing application, or to put it in simple words, the old source code, the data that was being used by the old source code. So it is taken and it is also re-engineered. Okay, in such a way that it is compatible with the re-engineered program or re-engineered application. So the takeaway here is, we should not only re-engineer the application part, but also the data part that was used by the application. Because if you just make changes to the application part, so there is a very high possibility of the data part not being suitable to the modified application. So re-engineer both the application and the data. Okay. Now after performing data re-engineering, what is the outcome? So we have the outcome here is re-engineered data. So re-engineered data is the outcome of data re-engineering. So this was the complete process that is followed in software re-engineering. So we have a starting point. The starting point is taking the existing code, original program. We have set of steps. The steps involves translating the existing code into a modern day programming language, creating documentation for the translated code, structure improvement, improving the structure of the existing code, modularizing the existing code. Okay. So that was the application part. We even we have touched upon the data part by re-engineering the data, by making the data suitable for the modified application. And what is the outcome? What is the last step of the complete process? The outcome is, we have re-engineered program or application which has been modified in such a way that it is maintainable. It can be used for some more duration. See, that is a basic aim here. Okay, we should not scrap the existing system, or we should not replace the existing system with a completely new software. Okay, instead let us continue for some more time with the existing software by doing some changes, some modifications. Okay, so that is the outcome here. We have re-engineered program. Not only that, the data that was being used by the existing application, okay, so that is also being re-engineered. So this was software re-engineering process with different activities involved as part of this process. Okay. So we understood the first part, the software re-engineering process activities. Okay. So now we will go into the second part, preventive maintenance by refactoring. Okay, we'll try to understand what exactly it is. So before that, so I'll clear this. Okay, so now we will take up the second part, so preventive maintenance by refactoring. So preventive maintenance by refactoring. So we are repeatedly observing changing the existing software during maintenance is resulting in degradation of the software in terms of the structure, in terms of the design of the software, because the new requirement you are trying to incorporate into the existing software may not be accommodative of that specific requirement. Okay, but still you are forcefully trying to push it into the existing software. And if you are doing so, definitely it will degrade the structure of the software. Okay. So now this degradation over a period of time may reach a point where it may result in complete collapse of the software or introduction of major flaws, which may really have an impact on the usage of the software, which in turn will affect the business process. Okay. So now can we try to minimize this impact? Can we try to reduce it? So definitely we can do it. So through what is called as preventive maintenance. So as the name itself is suggesting, prevent the degradation of the software to a point where it may reach the saturation level or a point where it may collapse with major flaws in the system. Try to prevent it. How we can do it? Okay. By refactoring. What is refactoring? So this was already discussed in the previous sessions. So refactoring means make improvements to the program in such a way that the impact of degradation is reduced. See, you cannot avoid it in one shot, but at least we can try to reduce the degradation process. You can reduce the impact of the structure of the software being degraded. Okay, so that is what is refactoring all about. Okay. Yes, our software is degrading, we cannot avoid it, but still at least let it be a graceful degradation. Okay, so whatever degradation is happening, let it not impact our software in a major way. Okay, so with that objective we plan our preventive maintenance through refactoring. Okay, what exactly we are doing here? Okay, so as already mentioned, so improve the structure of the software. So this was already discussed. So in different topics, try to improve the structure. How you will try to improve the structure? Okay, reduce the complexity of the software, make it easy to read and understand. Okay, so that is one aspect of improving the structure. Please note, refactoring is not adding a completely new functionality. Adding new functionality is part of maintenance, but this is preventive maintenance. We have added a new functionality, and after adding the new functionality, we should ensure this addition should not degrade the overall software. This is the objective of preventive maintenance. So we are not adding any new functionality, but a new functionality that has already been added, we are trying to ensure that will not degrade the software. Okay, so this is a primary fundamental objective here. Okay, for that we are doing this. We are trying to improve the structure, we are trying to reduce the complexity, we are trying to make it easy for reading and understanding. Okay, we are trying to improve the existing program. Okay. So this improvement with the objective of avoiding major collapse at a later stage in the future. Okay. So we are seeing two terms here. One is re-engineering, the other one is refactoring, and both are talking in similar terms. Improve the existing code, improve the existing design. Okay. Take the existing software to a stage which will ensure that the degradation is graceful. Okay, it does not happen abruptly. Okay, so now we understood we are doing it through engineering and refactoring. Okay, now is there any difference between the two? So engineering is also working on the same goal, refactoring is also almost working on a similar goal. Okay, then is there any difference? Okay, so the difference is, see, we introduced re-engineering when we reached a point where we felt further maintenance is difficult. Okay, so when we came to a conclusion that yes, now it is getting difficult for adding new changes to the software, then we thought about re-engineering. Up to that point, we did not consider re-engineering. Okay, for example, a software application was given to a client. Client has used the software for maybe 3 or 5 years. Maybe in that duration, the client or the software company, it may not have thought about re-engineering. Okay, because the design supported changes to the software. But after 3 or 5 years, so definitely, as already discussed in many of the topics, the structure would be degraded. So now it is the time to think about re-engineering. Okay, so after using the software for a period of time, so re-engineering comes into picture. What about refactoring? We have a source code, we have a design, can we improve it? Okay, so the answer here is yes. At what stage? See, refactoring can happen at any point, at any stage. For example, you consider the initial stages of software process where you are into the design of the software. You took the requirements from the client and you are planning the design. So there also refactoring can appear, where you are trying to improve the structure of the design. Okay, now you are writing the code for the software. There also you can do refactoring. Okay, now you are in the initial stages of software maintenance. There also you can do it. You have almost reached the end of maintenance. There also you can do it. So the answer here is re-engineering comes into picture when we have reached a point where maintenance is difficult. Okay, and refactoring can appear at any point in the software process. It can appear in the beginning during design itself, or even at the intermediary stages or at the end. Okay, so that is the primary difference between re-engineering and refactoring. So the point here is you can improve the software through re-engineering and also through refactoring. You can also have preventive maintenance through refactoring. Okay, meaning that you are trying to be careful about or you are trying to think about the future of the software to ensure that the software does not enter a stage where it may get into a point where it is difficult to use the software. So we are trying to improvise on the software through refactoring. Okay, now what type of improvements can be done? Okay, so we understood preventive maintenance by refactoring. Okay, we use refactoring to ensure maintenance will be easy. Okay, and refactoring can be done at any stage. It can be introduced in the design itself. Now, what type of improvements can we expect because of refactoring? What type of improvements you can expect? Okay, so we'll touch upon that aspect. So improvement through refactoring. So what improvements can happen to the design of the software, code of the software, or to the software that is being used by the client, what type of improvements can be done. Okay. So one of the improvements that we can expect through refactoring is removing duplicate code. Okay. See, duplicate code is one of the issues that will plague a software because of different teams or different team members working as part of the project. Okay. If the communication or synchronization is not proper, okay, so that can result in duplicate codes or redundant code being introduced in the software. Okay. So obviously it's an overhead in terms of memory and processing. Okay. So refactoring can help you identify the parts of the code, the pieces of the code which are redundant, and remove it. Okay. So the second thing that can come out from refactoring is long methods into short methods. Okay. See, as already discussed, refactoring is not changing the behavior of the software. Okay. What the software was previously doing, the same thing will be done even after refactoring. So before and after refactoring, there is no changes in terms of the behavior of the software, but okay, we are trying to improve the code. That's it. What type of improvement? One already we saw, eliminating duplicate code. What are the other types of improvements that are possible? Long methods to short methods. Just to improve the clarity, consider what was being done by maybe 50 lines of code. The same thing was modified to 10 lines. Okay, so what was being done by 50 lines of code, now the same thing is being done with 10 lines of code. Okay, so long method has been modified into short methods. Okay. Switch statements. This is one more place where we can have optimizations or refactoring. Okay. See, as we are aware, a software, a system or application is typically complex. Okay. And talking about switch statements, it is not like we have just one or two switch statements. Hundreds of switch statements can be there in a typical software application, which is complex. Okay. So now can we optimize on it? Okay. So multiple switch statements that are scattered in different programs can be optimized. So definitely, so we can use the mechanism available in polymorphism to optimize it. So what is polymorphism? Already we understood in previous modules. Okay. So the same piece of code taking different behavior. Okay. So we can design the part of the switch statement in such a way that it exhibits polymorphic behavior. Okay. So instead of hundreds of switch statements, a set of switch statements exhibiting polymorphic behavior can help us reduce the code. Okay. So that is the third improvement you can expect through refactoring. Okay. So the fourth one is data clumping. Okay. Or we even call it as clustering. So what exactly is data clumping or clustering? So we are aware of this term, cluster. Cluster means grouping similar data. Okay. So once again, talking about clustering in the context of software application. See, there is a possibility of the same data component being repeated in different parts of a program or in different programs. Okay. So now how we can clump the data and reduce the size of the data. Okay. So we can use very strong mechanisms available in object-oriented modeling, like encapsulation, which we already discussed in previous modules, using which we can wrap the data and functions. Okay. So data clumping, where we are grouping data components which are repeated across programs or within programs. Okay. For example, you consider student name and USN and even marks in a typical college management software. Okay. So obviously the student is a highlighting factor in a college management software. So we may need to repeat the student credentials like name, USN, marks in different programs. Okay. So we can use the encapsulation technique, or you can group it into a class. Okay. So where we can ensure clustering of the data here. Okay. So that is the fourth benefit of refactoring. The fifth one is speculative generality. So what is speculative generality? Okay. Speculative, as the name is indicating, we are trying to speculate, we are trying to predict. Okay, we are trying to predict the future and add pieces of code. Okay, so we are trying to add new pieces of code to the existing software, which may not be used at this point of time, but definitely it will be beneficial in the future during maintenance. Okay, so that is speculative generality. Okay, so we understood improvement to the existing software through refactoring, and it can happen at any point. It is not like it is only during maintenance. So as already previously discussed, it can happen at any point. Okay. So last part, legacy system management. Okay. So what is a legacy system? How exactly the legacy system will be managed? So we will take up this discussion in the next session. So in this session we discussed about software re-engineering. We discussed the process that is followed during software re-engineering. We also understood what is refactoring. What is the difference between re-engineering and refactoring? Both are focused towards a common goal, but still there is a difference. What is that difference? We understood. How refactoring can help us with preventive maintenance and also improve. Okay, so improve the existing software. So all these things were discussed. So in the next session we will start with legacy system. So thank you.